My name is Adonis. You know me from the Analytes. Massive week this week. So the Jackson 5 have been called up for international duty. That's Charlie Creswell, Cody Drame. Is it Drame? How do you say it, Rob?
Rob will know.
I say Drame, but I don't know. We have to ask the man himself. Hopefully we get him on the podcast one day.
Lewis Bate, or is it Bate? Sam Greenwood and Joe Gelhardt. Incomings before the deadline, Leo Helder? Hegelder. How do you say it, Rob?
Hielde.
There you go. And Dan James, while Helder Costa headed to Valencia. Robbie Gotts and Jordan Stevens joined Barrow. The under-23s edged Derby in a 3-2 thriller. The ladies beat Alnwick Town. Easy for me to say. And the men's team were involved in a UFC bout in Burnley. Stuart Dallas has withdrawn from the Northern Ireland squad due to personal reasons. We wish him and his family all the best. And Calvin Phillips was voted England's Player of the Year with 40,000 votes. Joining us to discuss all this and much more is Rob at Juicy Rob.
Good evening.
And the chairman of the board himself at Wiggy1234.
Good evening.
Right. Only one place to start. A small Welshman after 2.5 years of a brief prison internment across the Pennines has finally joined us. So the transfer window, should I say? Wiggy, you want to go first?
Yeah, I know the Dan James transfer seems to be causing a lot of controversy, both positive and negative. I think my personal one is now he's cleaned and washed from the other side of the Pennines. It's a great signing for us. I think we wanted to strengthen that area. You look at the bench, just on Sunday just gone, and you're thinking who can change the game? Helder Costa, not really. So to upgrade to a Dan James, who I think is a fantastic signing for us, for me is a really positive. And I think it's the transfer probably that people are like, the transfer fee that people are like, oh my God, that's a lot of money. But you've got to remember now, we're in the Premier League and we're buying from a Premier League top 4 team, not from Swansea. He's had 2 years in the Premier League playing. He hasn't just been a bit part player. He's definitely played a good amount of games there. So for me, I'm really looking forward to seeing him play in the white shirt. He looks much better in white than he does in red, that's for sure.
The small Welshman, Rob.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm a bit like Wiggy. I think it's a good signing. You look at the position, and we've strengthened in both areas. Somerville, for me, is an upgrade on Poveda, obviously, who's gone out to loan on Blackburn. And I think, obviously, Dan James is a big upgrade on Costa. So if you look at that, whether you play inverted wingers or whether you go with them with their natural feet, we've got Somerville, who for me is a better player than Poveda, and Dan James, who's now come in, who's a better player than Costa. Yes, I think the transfer fee was a little bit eyebrow-raising, because if you look at the price tag, a lot of Leeds fans might be thinking, it's close to the Rodrigo fee, and that we still don't know if that's going to work out or not. But ultimately, if you look at exactly what Wiggy said, Premier League players of that quality with that experience, both European and domestic, there's not many that go for cheaper than 25 million, really, unless they're unproven or maybe they're imports from the European market. So you pay more. The British price tag for a British player is more. That happens. We know that. So, yeah, okay, you could argue that the price tag might be slightly inflated, but I think we've got a brilliant player on his hands there, and happy to see him cleansed of his Lancashire illnesses and brought over to Yorkshire for some rehabilitation with murder ball.
It was a man in the middle of the motorway. He stopped him, sprayed him,
hosed him down,
disinfectant, and then he came on his way. And he's fine now. He's glad to be here.
We look good on the wings.
Idea,
we look good on the wings.
Yeah.
The Yorkshire border, just having some check stops and disinfectants. 50 appearances, 6 goals. 63 shots he had for Scum with 27 on target. Maybe he was just deliberately sabotaging them. A few comments. Lil Don, not sure about you guys. I think 25 million is a bit too steep for James. It's the only thing that's steep about him, to be fair. Daniel B, evening gents. Glad I finally caught you live. Nora, I'm so excited for James. Everyone looks better in a white shirt than a red. No? Bremner's Ghost, 25 million seems like a good deal compared to us getting 31 million for Rio. Yeah, and like you've both said, prices for British players are crazy, aren't they?
I, at the minute, and they just can't seem to win. Like, sign a player. Oh, that's too much for a player. Well, what do you want? Do you want them to sign someone or don't you? That's the price. If you want it, you pay it. And we've got our man. And as I'm sure we've all seen, Bielsa's wanted him for years, and Bielsa's got his man. So as I say, I'm delighted.
They can't win, can they?
No.
The consensus was spend some money, and then they did, and then the consensus was, oh, maybe not that much.
What? How can you win on that?
Okay, so the window in general then. Helder Costa has headed out. I don't know who Hielder is. Maybe Rob can enlighten us on the under-23s in a second. But there was a little bit of a chat in the group today about a rating out of 10 for the transfer window. Do you want to start off with that and how you feel it went?
Yeah, look, if you go out of 10, and then I think a decent 7. I think we've got the position we wanted in terms of a left back. We've strengthened on the wings. I think everyone wanted a centre mid. We haven't got one. You hope that Forshaw works out. Yeah, I think we've, the thing for me with the outgoing players, I think it was time for Costa to move on. I don't think it was anywhere near good enough for this level. But some of the players that have gone out in terms of the under-23s, it was their time to move on. I don't think they were going to make the grade at Leeds United. So I think all in all, yeah, I'm pleased. I'm comfortable.
Rob?
Yeah, I gave it a 7 in the group chat. I think it's a solid positional improvement in every aspect. I've already mentioned, I think the wings, we've got Poveda replaced in essence. I know he's on loan, but Somerville stepping up to those boots. We brought Dan James in to strengthen versus Costa. Firpo in at left back. And then I think, from the outgoing side, I think Costa will do well over in Valencia. I do think they'll make it permanent. I know there's a lot of people joking on Twitter saying once they've seen him play, they won't want to sign him permanently. I think they'll make that deal permanent. I just think we're not going to recoup a lot of the 17 million that we paid for him back. It'll be probably 3, 4, 5 million. And then you look at the youth, and I think it's been another good, well invested funds out to bring some good youth players in. We spoke on a previous episode. We've got Miller, McGurk, Bate, and for people who don't know those kind of players, if you watch the 23s, they'll be starting regularly. And I think, again, they're positional improvements. I feel a little bit sad for Stevens and Gotts. I mean, Gotts, both of those actually were out on loan a lot last season. So from the 23s perspective, to lose both of them, and they've both gone to Barrow. I think with Stevens, there was a connection with Cooper, who's the manager over there at Barrow. I think he nurtured him at Forest Green before he came to Leeds. So I think there's a connection there as to why they wanted to sign him. And obviously Robbie's gone as part of that same deal, or 2 separate deals, but they've ended up at the same club. And then obviously young Bryce Hosanna, who, it never really worked out for him after he went to Bradford. He was injury stricken, and he's left on a freebie, and he's gone to Wrexham. So Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhenney, money rich Wrexham might make Bryce Hosanna a superstar in the lower leagues. But wish them all well, wish all of them well, because they all gave a shift for the 23s, and into the case of Robbie Gotts, been at the club a long time. So fair play to them. Thank for their efforts. But overall, I'd give the transfer window a solid 7.
Very nice. And my 2 cents on the transfer window is you just never really know.
Yeah.
I think that the club did a great job. They did as much as they felt they could do with the valuations that were being floated around, and the money that we've got. They kept a little bit in their back pocket in case something turned up in the last minutes, which it did. And you just don't know. That's the thing. Anybody passing a judgment on it, it's really speculation at this point, because they could turn out to be the worst signings we've ever made, and
I think
or it could go the other way.
I think that's a real point for me because, like, Angus came out earlier in the window, didn't he? And he said, "Look, we're not skint. Everyone's saying we're skint. We're not skint. The right players available at the right price. We have the money to do that deal." And I think for me, the securing of the Dan James transfer just says that, and for me, it builds a little bit of trust in terms of what he's saying to us. We are not oil rich. We have got to be sensible with the money we spend. But should the right transfer become available at the right price, we're there and we'll be able to do it. So for me, I think that's a real sign of decent intent from them.
I think longer term strategy, they're getting it right from a base youth perspective. I agree with your sentiment, Donny. It can work the exact same way. We're bringing in Lewis Bate, Amari Miller. We're bringing in the young lads, McGurk. Obviously, previously it's been Greenwood, Gelhart, Somerville, Drame. All these players we're bringing in for from pittance to a couple of million, some of them, which is not small change, it adds up. And I think those lads that they're bringing in, they've got a design and an ideal solution that they want to step these people up as the kind of like production line to the first team, a la Shackleton or Struijk, something like that. And then I think it opens up a separate question if you're players like Bogusz and McCalmont, who are out there on loan in, various guises. I think they're probably thinking, actually, we might end up going the same way as Stevens or Gotts, and we'll put ourselves out on loan in the shop window, and then we'll move those players on. It seems to be that from a youth perspective, the transfer strategy is if you stay within the PL2, Division 2 and now Division 1, you stay within Mark Jackson's squad, you're probably in the plans for the first 11 or for that production line. If you get loaned out, we're kind of giving you that first team experience, but more than likely you've been put in a shop window to be moved on. And that's, I don't know if obviously that's just my interpretation of it. So, because I think a lot of people were looking at McCalmont and Bogusz and saying, well, if the Forshaw experiment doesn't work, if he is injured again and he suffers another long-term injury, are you going to bring them in because Shackleton will have to step up, or Mr. All Over the Pitch, Dallas is going to have to step up and start playing centre mid? So it's one of them. I think the youth strategy is also kind of mirroring what's going on with the first 11 strategy, and exactly what Wiggy said. When the right players are out there, they'll spend the money.
The Forshaw experiment. It just sounds like an 80s B movie or something.
Amazon documentary next season 3, the Forshaw experiment.
Yeah, coming to you in December.
There's a scientist with a mad gleam in his eye on the front cover.
It's Rob Price.
Right. He's got recycling body parts from the players we're loaning out.
He's like, I'm not losing this one. He's working. He's going to work.
We will not lose this patient, but he's dead. He's been dead for a couple of years.
the Forshaw bot 320.
Yeah, has anyone actually checked that it is really Forshaw and it's not a cyborg that they've been building?
And they got aluminium limbs.
Oh dear. Okay. Is that it for transfers? Oh, there was Kiko as well. So Kiko, a bit of a shadow over the club.
Yeah, let's move on. We've said enough about him.
And now we've got Klaassen, which is...
We've still got Lawrence de Bock on the books, lads. Never mind. Kiko.
No.
He's out on loan this season. He's gone to, where is he? He's in Zulte Wagram or some club like that. He's still on the books. He's got another year on his deal.
I was going to say, that's his last year, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a deal he got there. And the other one was Wasim Boy, who we got rid of.
Got rid of him.
I think, the end of last season. But I was thinking of him as a kind of analogy to Socios. LUFC dollars. You know that it exists somewhere, but you've never seen it. Like, it only really exists on Instagram Reels. And what else? You know that it's there. It's part of the club. You didn't ask for it. Nobody asked for it or wanted it, but it is there, whether you like it or not. And somebody's getting rich out of it, but you just not sure who.
It isn't us.
Right.
Probably not the club either, to be honest.
Definitely not the club. Burnley?
Yeah, I was there. I managed to get a ticket, which was fantastic. Not Burnley, the place, just to be clear, but it was good to be on. It was good. It was good to be on an away day.
Great day out, Burnley.
Just as well, like they named a pub after Sean Dyche. It's called the Royal Dyche. They renamed this years old pub, and honestly, I had to go in. I had to go in. But like, look, it was disappointing. I think I just don't think we seemed rudderless at times, and just not to be able to get into a flow. I think Luke Haley wasn't great, and I think that really, really impacts us. I think the game was crying out for an Alioski. I really do, and I know that I was the first one saying, "Don't sign him up, let him go." But it like we were creating all sorts of chances down that left-hand side with Harrison and whipping the ball in. There were no one ever there, but I think like Alioski on the overlap, which he did so well last season, would have created even more options for us to go on and hopefully win the game. I think at the end of the day, I think a point was a fair result. But I think the game changes, doesn't it, if he gets a red card, which he should have got, and we'd have probably gone on and got 3. But on the balance of that decision, going against us, and the fact that they went 1 up, and we managed to get a point, I think in the end it's a good point, but it's them ones that you want to be winning.
Is it crystal meth that makes you really angry? I don't know what Burnley's pre-match routine is, but there are a bunch of very angry young men out there, and I feel like Alioski added to the mixer in that game would have been like the blue touch paper and stand well back.
I think it's Dyche's pre-match, like, all right, lads, into him. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, proper getting them up for it.
They got their fans back as well, haven't they? It's always a difficult place to go, Burnley. I mean, I thankfully didn't go to the place of Burnley, but I would have gone to the match if I'd have got a ticket. But it's always a difficult ground to visit. And listen, at some points of the game, they weren't there to play football, were they? They were there to try and rough it up and get in your face. But to be fair to them, it worked because, as you said, Wiggy, we had no rudder. The leaders, the in your face. People that would have grabbed that grain by the scruff of the neck went missing a little bit, dare I say. And without being too critical of ourselves, Burnley didn't allow us to play how we would have liked to have played. And like you say, there's no one on the edge of balls. Passes were scruffy and sloppy at various points. And I think it just cried out for a bit more of a kind of rough and ready kind of mentality from ourselves. So yeah, I mean, a draw was a fair point, but it was a difficult game to watch. It was tedious at points, and yeah, they should have had a man sent off. But
I was joking last season that Dyche had kidnapped the players' kids, and that was his motivating tool, standing at the sideline. Remember, I've got your kids.
while smoking 40 B&H.
Yeah. But simultaneously genuinely believing his team play like prime Barcelona. That's what confuses me. When he's like, oh, we had quality in certain areas of the pitch. What quality? No quality.
It's almost like he's got VR glasses on, and seen a different game to us because, they're not very good, are they?
He's living in a simulation. If the man, but he genuinely interviews after the game, like he's done hard shift himself. He's been out there with his boots on, pinging 40-yarders like pillow feet, and he's just there. Oh, like quality. We show quality in flashes. No, you didn't. There was no quality.
No. A few more comments. What happened to Daryl Dyke on loan? I don't know that. That sounds like a made-up name. It always did. And I stopped listening to rumours a while back. So unless it comes out of the mouth of Phil Hay or Fabrizio Romano, now that we're in the Premier League.
Here we go.
Here we go with Fabrizio Romano. Lewis W. I reckon now Bielsa has the player he has wanted for years. We can move on and really build on the squad. Bowie Doctor, the youngsters look good for the future. I hope we see more of them coming off the bench for the first team. And he also said he's been done by Doctor Strange, which is a foreshow reference. Bandy Fornoski, we were not that bad. Burnley's plan was pure brutality and to hope for the best. We had to deal with 1,000 corners and cope very well considering last season.
That's a good point, actually. Set piece defending was actually all right without touching, without jinxing it too much. We actually looked fairly robust defending set pieces, but that was because we had the 3 at the back, didn't we? I think if you put 2 in there, then we've got a mistake in us still, I think, from set pieces.
What I'm drinking, by the way, is aloe vera juice. And what I noticed just before coming on is it's called Tut Best. Tut Best. And I guess it's tea best because it's from Korea and nowhere near Yorkshire.
No, but it's definitely Yorkshire import.
Tut Best water. It's green. Tut Best water. Council pop.
They had to export it from Yorkshire because no one would drink it here.
Yeah, I was going to say most people don't even know what aloe vera is.
Aloe vera.
To the nan.
And I'm drinking grape juice. It's lovely.
Very nice. Fermented?
Oh, absolutely. Of the highest quality.
Is that rosé, Wiggy?
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes. I went out in Burnley after and drank rosé in pubs that I probably shouldn't drink rosé wine in.
Out of a pint glass.
yeah, totally. God.
Can I have a glass of rosé, please? A what? I mean, a pint of rosé?
But it's for that beautiful lady over there.
And then they said, well, that's definitely unbelievable because there's no beautiful ladies in Burnley.
True.
Brenner's Ghost, we needed some dirty Leeds to beat dirty Burnley. Bandy says we should have won the game in the first half. Kieran says, I think we're overthinking our poor start. And Nora says, it's so annoying, this kind of football. It makes me angry. Yes, zero quality. They probably just put some food colouring in some white wine for you, Wiggy. Rightio, Rob, can you please give us an update on the under-23s?
Yeah. The future England centre-back Charlie Cresswell signed a new deal, which I really like, 4-year extension. We've got quite a few bits and bobs of news, actually, this week from the 23s and even the 21s and the 20s. In total, there were 17 international call-ups across the development squads, which I think is phenomenal. So for the 21s, you've got Bogus for Poland, Klaassen, the new keeper that we signed, Melier and Cresswell. Under 20s, we had Drame, Bate, Greenwood and Gelhardt all going to the England setup, which you mentioned at the start of the programme. Under 19s, we got Allen, Chikoko and Mullen, Van der Heuvel and Coleman for their various international call-ups, Scotland, Netherlands, Ireland and Wales. Hilde and Coleman for the under-18s, and then Godden and Ombang for the 17s as well. So yeah, across the whole board, 17 international call-ups for this break across Leeds United's development squads, which I think is an absolute phenomenal quantity really across. So fair play to everyone involved in the academy setup. And then, yeah, the results, we've actually not done a youth cast for a while. So we missed, there was the 2 games last week. It was a bit jam-packed. And like you say, both were not without incident, should I say. Quite end-to-end stuff. A quick summary of them. I think that the result against Derby was needed after a slightly, I'd say, unflattering scoreline against Spurs. I don't think we deserved the result that we got against Spurs. Definitely not by the scoreline that we got. But to beat Derby on the Friday was a cracking result. And I think Mark Jackson summarised it really well with his post-match after Derby, which is we've just got to get back to a bit more of the basics. And when we are pushing forward, a bit less gung-ho. And like any team that's leaking goals, shore it up at the back. But I think you've got to also contextualize or put into context that 23s has gone through a shift as well. So there's still players bedding in. We mentioned already the players that we've brought in, who all look in their own individual way quality, by the way. But also you've got, with the increase in the bench capacity for the first 11s, you've got more players that are having to kind of step in and out. I think it was McCarron that was on the bench for Burnley as a left back, obviously potential replacement with Firpo out if he was needed. So you've got some of these lads like your fringe players that are going to get a lot more opportunity to step up on the first 11 bench, which will then mean by the Monday when we're playing for the 23s, if some of them have seen minutes or if they've been travelling away on the Sunday, that they might not make that squad for the 23s. So similar to last year, we're going to see a lot of vertical integration with the 18s, the 23s, and the first 11. We're going to see a lot of players shifting up and down the ladder, which other clubs don't tend to do. They tend to box off or ring fence their development squads, whereas Bielsa likes to keep them involved in training sessions with the first 11 and so on. So yeah, a mixed week in terms of results. Tough against Spurs, but bounced back with a good win against Derby. Overall, heading in the right direction. And very, very, very pleasing to see some of the kind of tidbits that are coming out, like Cresswell's extension, the international call-ups, and to see the new guys bedding in really well. I was most impressed with, once again, Mr. Somerville, and Amari Miller looks like a decent acquisition as well.
Perfect. And that moves us nicely on to the international break then, everyone's favourite topic. Well, but now we've got Patrick Bamford and England's Player of the Year, Calvin Phillips, involved.
How much piss did that boil, by the
way? I loved Calvin just going, yeah, that's Leeds fans.
40,000 votes. It had nothing to do with people making screenshots and instructions on how to use a VPN to make multiple votes. 40,000 votes he got.
Raheem's scratching his head, isn't he? Like, how have I not won that?
Tyler involved today, 83 minutes of a 0-0 draw against Finland with Wales, but England then. Hungary tomorrow, and then Andorra, and on Wednesday next week, Poland. So there you go.
Interesting tidbit for you. Just a little statistician thing that I noted down. England have conceded only once from open play in the 15 games that Calvin has played. He played every game at the Euros, obviously, as we know, and covered 83 kilometres across the tournament, including the full 120 minutes in both the semi-final and the final. I saw that tweet earlier that was tweeted out by a shall name remainless betting company that was trying to promote their own betting company on the back of Calvin, which I don't know how that goes down. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting, especially the conceded once from open play. I didn't realise that. I knew that we'd been steady at the back when they were playing him and Rice, or Henderson and Rice, or him and Hendo as a combination of. But to only concede once when he's played is a stat that I'm sure he's hoping to see continue. Bamford should also get some minutes as well, shouldn't he, with Calvert-Lewin going out injured? Because Kane won't play all three, will he? He won't play all 3 games. So I think Bamford will get some minutes, which will be very nice for him.
That'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
It would be joyful. I'm definitely more worried about Bamford at international level though, because I just think obviously the style of play and how they play is completely different to our Leeds United play and the role he plays for us. And I can just see a bloody Twitter having a meltdown, calling him crap, and I just hope he don't, read that and see that, because I think for us he's definitely England's number 9, and I want him to continue. And that was a point on Burnley. Like, whilst it was a crap game and it was shit, the real positive out of that is that Bamford got on the sheet and opened his account, hopefully, for another really productive season. So I'm delighted for it. It's so cute watching him and Calvin together. It literally is like first day at school where he's following his friend around.
Did you see Henry Winter tweeted out that Bamford was the first there? He was like the first kid at school with his little lunchbox and bag, turning up all excited.
I literally expected to have a little Leeds United lunchbox stood next to Calvin asking, where do we go for lunch?
Yeah, he's got his cello or violin in the bag as well, hasn't he? To try and serenade the lads before the kick-off. He
totally deserves it though, doesn't he? Like, what an incredible rise. I'll be really honest. I wasn't his biggest fan for a long, long time, but I just think he's turned into this phenomenal player that, I love, and I can totally see why Bielsa loves him. The shift he puts in, and he definitely leads from the front every time. I'm really delighted for him. I think it's well deserved. I hope he has a cracker. I hope he can fit into that England mould and come away with his head held high, which he does for me anyway. But yeah,
when I feel frustrations with, for example, Roberts, which I know you don't feel the same level of frustration as I do, Wiggy, but I do think of Bamford and how much he's changed and improved.
Compared to the first year we had him, I know his conversion rate still gets called into question, but it was through the floor, wasn't it? It was like 9%, and then he doubled it up and increased that in the year we got promoted. And against Crewe, for example, just the other night, if he hadn't come off the bench, I don't think we could have played 200 minutes and not scored a goal. We looked like, and when he came on, he was pulling defenders off the ball ragged. And then obviously Harrison decided to wake up, and there we go. We finished it off easily enough. But yeah, when he came on against Crewe, I thought he was the biggest difference maker. And that's what, when he's not in the first 11 or when he's missing, we don't look the same threat at the minute. So it is important that he stays fit. But I do hope he gets some minutes, which I think he will, because Kane can't. Southgate won't play Kane all 3 games, so I think Bamford will get on at least one of them.
Yeah, it's Hungary tomorrow, Andorra on Sunday, and then Poland next week. So you'd think probably Andorra would be the one, wouldn't it? Give Kane a break in that middle bit. And you say
Hat-trick Bamford against Andorra.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be easier than playing against Chelsea or some of these Premier League teams. Yeah.
No, we thought that about Crewe, didn't we? And it's that was.
Are any England games friendlies or are they all qualifiers? That's how much interest I put in.
I actually don't know.
World Cup qualifiers.
Fine. Okay. Let's see if he gets some minutes.
He'll rotate though, surely, because people are. The season's only 3 games in. I think there's a fitness question about the lads that played in the Euros anyway. Still, some of them, not all of them. I think he'll do. I think Donny's right. I think the Andorra game is probably where we'll see, with all due respect to Andorra, the second 11, and the other 2 games he'll play is preferred first 11s.
And let's be honest, Harry Kane had an extended summer. Didn't go back till about 7 games in. We're not even 7 games in.
Yeah, he was hanging out around Manchester.
Yeah, around Piccadilly Square, waiting to get a bus up to the Etihad.
Can I play with you guys? Oh, it would probably be like, can I play with you guys?
He turned his "Where's my iPhone" off, so Daniel, if he couldn't find him.
A few comments. Joe Depp, evening all. Evening, Joe. Neptune, Dan James under Bielsa is different gravy. Certainly hope so. Mark, who will be the first under-23 player to get minutes with the first team, and by when? This is looking into the crystal ball here, Mark. I would have said Somerville, but we've just bought a fancy new winger. Welso Falls, that's Dan Welso, our mate Dan, even though he's a Chelsea fan, so we'll forgive him that. I'm looking forward to seeing what Bamford can do in an England shirt. As are we, Dan. Colin Brooks, when was the last time we had a Leeds to Leeds assist at England level? That's one for stats. KP Ball to Bamford. I think, wasn't it Lee Bowyer to Alan Smith? But I'm pretty sure, was that a friendly? Or I can't even remember.
We need stats for that one. You were right.
Yeah. Stats, I'm afraid. Right. Anything else?
I think they're the main points, aren't they? I think it's been very, very an interesting few days. I think we obviously look forward to Liverpool, which I know is in, well, it's over a week, isn't it? But yeah, I'm excited for that already. It stayed at the same kickoff time. That's all confirmed, so that's brilliant for me personally.
Yeah, Sunday 4:30, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I think, obviously we expect to get beat by Liverpool, and if we do, that's, I just don't want people to go into meltdown. Like, the next run of games after the Liverpool game are all winnable games for us to start to put some points on the board. Yes, it was disappointing we didn't pick anything up against Burnley, but let's look at the positives. We came from behind twice against Everton. We came from behind against Burnley. We've got fight and grit, and teams in the last 10 minutes just do not look like they could get near us, and our fitness just flies through. So I think get through the Liverpool game, and then for me, it's time to start picking up points and moving up the league.
I was watching something on fantasy football the other day, one of these fantasy Premier League channels, and one of them was saying about Leeds players after the Liverpool game, because we don't play a team in the top 4 or top 5, I think it was, from last season's, as it was finished last season, until the end of November. So we've got a stretch, like you say, of very winnable games. If we're still languishing in sort of 15th and 16th at the end of that, then you've got to think, okay, well, something's not going right. We're still safe, but something's not going right. But I think we'll come good. I can see us getting a point against Liverpool. I'd like to think we've got the capabilities anyway. Post-international break, renewed energy. But yeah, if we lose that game, it is important people do not lose their heads, which we know they will. Twitter will be horrible.
Yeah, I think, we play Liverpool, then there's Newcastle after that, West Ham. So I think West Ham again will be tricky. So even the next 3 games, we've got one that should be winnable. But after that, Watford, Southampton, Wolves, Norwich. So those 4 games, we could get 3 wins or and that would really kickstart our season. After that, we've got Leicester and Spurs. We beat both of those teams by fairly big margins in games last season. And then Brighton, we're probably never going to win in Brighton, so forget about that. Crystal Palace.
The curse of the Amex. We spoke about it last year, didn't we? What a horrible situation it is when we go there.
Yeah, Crystal Palace and Brentford. So again, games we should be winning, both at home, before that disastrous run in December. So I think it's okay. It was a very tough start to the season going to Scum. Everton are going to be a very difficult team to beat easily for teams now because A, they've got very good players. B, they've got Rafa Benitez now, who we all know about Rafa. His teams are notoriously difficult to break down.
I think we'll look back at that and say that was a good point. At the end of the season, I think Everton will surprise a few people, and I think people will look back at that and go, actually, that was a decent point at home to them.
Yeah, they were already good before they got Damari Gray, and who was clearly the bargain of the window, even though Messi went to PSG for free. Right. Nothing to worry about. We'll be back soon. We
Remain
just need
calm.
to score first.
Injury-free through international break, please. Every single player. Doesn't matter what squad they're in. 23s, 18s, first team. Keep them all fit. Get them back after this pointless international break. No more COVID, please, as well. I'd love to avoid any more first team 11s having to isolate for 10 days.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but I saw on Twitter somebody said, I can't tell you how much I enjoy international tournaments and hate international breaks.
Correct.
And they're mostly because they're pointless, especially all these. I mean, should England really be playing Andorra? Do we need to be doing that?
No, we don't.
Qualification, isn't it? They love a good overly complex fixture system to milk the money out of the thousands of fans. Don't get me started on FIFA or UEFA.
Right. And so just enough time then. We had a similar segment last season, and I know that I'm definitely rusty. I think we all are getting back into these podcasts. But I seem to remember on the main cast, we had certain segments that kind of put some markers, like gave some structure. That's what I want to say. Gave some structure to the show.
Give some structure to your sentence that you're trying
to say. So one of them was, what's your thing? So I was wondering, that's something we did with stats. So it's something that maybe you've discovered in the last week. It doesn't have to be Leeds related. Could be about anything. Or something that you've been enjoying recently. And I just thought I'd spring this upon you now. So the last week, have you discovered? Shall I go first?
Go first.
Okay. There's a podcast. It's called Criminal. That's what I've been listening to recently. Sort of when I walk around or when I work or something, nice to just listen to a podcast. It's really good. It's sort of half hour roughly episodes, and they're all a different story about a different crime, and it's all true crime, but it doesn't have to be murder necessarily. It could be fraud or whatever. So they do all sorts of different stories essentially, and they're really, really interesting. I highly recommend it. Criminal.
Cool. I might have a listen.
Okay, Wiggy, Rob, what's your thing this week?
So what have I learned in the last week?
Yeah, or a new thing that you've discovered, a film that you watched, or whatever it is.
I learned and found out that Burnley is a shithole. There you go. First time I've ever been, and it was an absolute dump. There you go. The best place about Burnley is the train station out of there. There we go. What an interesting week I've had.
Go on top of that. I was going to say, I learned that cricket live is really quite a pleasant experience because I've never been to a live cricket game in my life. I don't dislike the sport, but I'm very much an armchair fan. Ashes, World Cups, 2020s, if it's a decent game, that's about it. But I've never been to see it live. And I went to Headingley to watch day 2 of the Tests the other day, where Joe Root batted his 100, which just took him to the top of the batting rankings in the world, I found out as well today. And it was a mad experience. I wouldn't take my fiancée and sit with like a Victoria sponge and some cucumber sandwiches. It might be a little bit boring, but I went with the lads. We went all dressed as ducks. There was like 12 of us. And we just went, and it was a proper good day out. Headingley, if you've ever been, good ground, decent beer. They got loads of like stalls behind in the kind of concourse where you could choose and buy different beers. They'd got all different types of like food options available, and the atmosphere was good, and it was a cracking day out. So yeah, I've learned that cricket is tolerable if you go live.
Cricket is tolerable if you're pissed.
Yes, that's it. That's me. All ducks are we. I don't look like I'm enjoying it on that picture, but that's a very badly timed still, which someone has taken of me. But yeah, it was a cracking experience. It was good. I enjoyed it actually.
To be fair, Rob, it's never been my thing, but like I think the experience of going and getting pissed up with the lads is one that I'm all up for. I could go watch paint dry if you're getting pissed up with the lads. Like,
it was a good day out, man. Good day out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Okay, last few comments then. So if you want something said, you better get in there quick. Colin Brooks, James to come on and score and get the winner. Joe Depp, looking forward to seeing Bate in the full squad. Bandy, the season is long, and later down the line, we might well see some of these youngsters get a look in. Bielsa keeps them close, lets them warm up, and psychologically that makes them hungry for it.
I think, like with the 23,
I'm not saying anything, Gil.
with the 23s and the ones we've signed, I don't watch the 23s. I'll look at Rob and go, tell me what's going on. But we need to be realistic. Some are going to make it, some are not. That's just exactly the way that it's gone. You know, Stevens, Gotts, they were all in the frame to they were going to be the next big thing, and they haven't made it. But you look at Stroik and you look at Shackleton, who are making it. Like, it's going to go one way or the other. It's part of the process, you know. Yeah. So some, as I say, some will make it and some won't. And I hope that Somerville and Greenwood and Gelhart, they're the ones that, you know, we're talking about and make it. But realistically, some of them might not make it. And that's absolutely fine. I think that's part of the process and part of what we're going through.
What we can do, hopefully, with those lads, though, and I don't mean sort of going into like, I think Simon Jordan on TalkSport calls it flesh trading, where you trade off the younger talent like a Chelsea does. But what we can do for sure is give them a good experience whilst they're here, because the academy staff look after them. They've got great facilities. Bielsa's invested in that. They've got top of the line facilities with a really good, well, let's face it, a lot of people's first 11 teams don't get the same support that our 23s do. And when they play a home game in front of fans at that level, or when they get to the bench, they know that the Leeds fans are next level different, I think. And then when we do come to move them on, if we have to sell them, the only thing I would like to see is that we can recuperate some money, or that we invest that money that we get for them in saving of the contracts into the next crop of youth. And I think it's just creating that cycle. And I think that's really what no one's sitting, I agree with you, Wiggy. No, what people shouldn't be sitting here thinking the 23s right now will be the same 11 of our first 11 in 3 years' time. It doesn't work like that. We'll probably see 1 or 2 of them come through. Some of them may be like with Struijk, it came about due to circumstance and he was thrust forward and he seized his opportunity. With players like, Somerville or Drame, they might have to wait a bit longer because, we've got right wing options, we've got Aylin and people in that play their position. And some of them may opt to move on to further their career quicker, which we saw at centre half. You've got Cresswell, and then we've now got 3-4 recognised centre halves. So unfortunately, I forgot the lad's name now. I'm just drawing a blank. He moved on. So you're going to face that situation, I think, as well, where some of them want to move on. We might move some of them on, but whilst they're here, if we give them the right level of development, they've got a good chance of progressing in cups and winning stuff at under 18, under 23 level, and being part of one of the best football club in England. So.
Right. Mark says just avoid bad losses. And I wanted to say something about that because if you look at like Chelsea, if you look at England, 3 centre-back, very defensive formation, 3 centre-backs with Chelsea, 2 defensive midfielders sitting in front of them. That's 5 players in the middle who are kind of, their sole responsibility is defensive work. And that is why they get so many clean sheets. And Bielsa is never going to play like that. No. We live by this. He wouldn't sacrifice the attackers for defenders. He just would never do it. So we're going to get bad losses from time to time. We
just need to avoid them against scum. Right. Yeah. I don't mind getting a bad loss, in the cup away at Fulham. But I'd rather not get them. I'd rather not get them against scum.
Yeah, last season it was a blow, but it wasn't a full-on meltdown. And then it happened again this season. And yeah, I keep going back to this, but there were days when we were mid-table Premier League, and the only thing that mattered is if we beat scum or not. So that's kind of the mentality of the fans. Maybe we could be a little bit more defensive when we play against them. Bandy, no? Okay. All right. Well, we might get some bad losses then. Bandy, if we beat Liverpool, the title race is on.
Oh my God.
Joe Deb, if you complain about England playing Andorra, then you don't like the FA Cup. Surely, I do like the FA Cup, but Leeds never play well in cups. So. And the other thing is, it's just England playing Andorra, to me, it's a useless fixture, especially, when there's still a pandemic going on technically. And the players are playing too much anyway. And anyway, I just don't care about England that much playing qualifiers or friendlies. Like England are going to qualify probably anyway. And Leeds are not going to win the FA Cup. I really enjoy watching Leeds. Leeds can go and get themselves injured playing for Leeds. That's tolerable. But now we've got players in the England team. I'd rather they didn't go get injured playing a meaningless game against Andorra.
And it'll happen to someone. It's happened previously. Hopefully not one of our players, but someone always comes back from the squad. I'm not saying a Leeds player, but from the squad with a knock or an injury that keeps them out for a few weeks and then sets the situation back. But yeah, it's not going to change, is it? I think it's only going to get worse next year because the Qatar World Cup's in December, isn't it? So the gap for the normal footballing calendar is going to be very peculiar next year.
Yep.
Mark made a clarification here. Bad losses against poor teams. Well, we can all get behind that. Let's not lose to Brighton and Crystal Palace this season. Okay, that's your lot then. Quick prediction for England: 3 wins, no injuries.
That will do. That's all I care about.
Take that.
Yeah, I've nothing else to say. Hopefully, Bamford gets some minutes.
Right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Bandy, Mark, Joe, Colin, Words. Nora, who is your my beautiful assistant. No, she's not my assistant. She's an independent woman.
You're totally getting in trouble after this.
Stream just goes dead.
Yeah.
The feed's been cut.
Right.
She's literally like angry emojis. Ready? You bastard. Don't you be calling her Debbie McGee next.
Debbie McGee. There's a flashback.
Nora, look up Debbie McGee. You'll know what I mean.
Should be sawing
dear.
Donny in half, mate. The other way.
Or he'll disappear, one or the other.
Gonna have to pull a rabbit out of the hat to dig myself out of that one. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you so much for joining us. So joining us today was at Wiki1234.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone.
And there was Juicy Rob at Juicy Rob.
Thank you for joining us.
He's very juicy. And my name's Adonis, and you can find me at the Adelites. You can find us at Peacock's Raw. Till next time. Stay safe. Stay
Bye, everyone.